so. Please state your name, and you've got 10 minutes.
My name is Kenneth Biggs. So for a screening process, our main method is previous reviews of past places they've stayed. That seems to work the best. So also, in addition to that, if they've never stayed, we will ask them a few questions just to understand why they're there, things like that. As far as on top of that, we always put cameras on our properties. We do have an existing short-term outside of Broken Arrow. We do have cameras. Very good reviews with it, no problem so far, but we live within a few minutes of the house. So any problems come up, we can easily get there, take care of it, and figure out what's going on. So yeah, that's really all I got. Any other question for me?
Do you all use a service like Airbnb or?
Yes, VRBO and Airbnb.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
You speak as if you have some experience in doing this. I'm just wondering about
Yes.
how long or have you been in this business?
We have a property that we've had for 1 year in Skytook area that does very well. We have constant traffic through it, and we pretty well do very well on top of myself, my wife back there run it, and never had complaints of any issues. Our reviews are all 5-star. So we do pretty well. I think we're on top of it anytime they have any concerns. She's 100% in the 1 hour response time that they like to have.
Mhm.
So she's always keeping an eye on making sure that we address the concerns.
So this will be your first one in BA?
Correct.
Okay.
Anything further? Okay, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, since we had no one that signed up to speak on this item, we're going to close the public hearing portion. Any further discussions, motions?
I will make a motion to approve item 6A.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve per staff recommendation and a second. Please call the roll.
Jason Cohen,
Yes.
Jonathan Townsend,
Yes.
Lee Welpley,
Yes.
Robert Goranson,
Yes.
Jay Lee Klippa.
Yes, and this item will go before City Council on February 7th, 2023. Item 6B, please.
Yes, Madam Chair and Commissioners, item 6B is COMP Comp 390-2022. It's a comp plan amendment request that was continued from the last meeting. The owner had something come up and was not able to be here tonight, and he'd really like to be, so he is again requesting that it be continued to the January 26th meeting.
Okay, thank you, Micah. Do we have any legal issues with continuing it again? Okay. All righty. Commissioners, do we have anybody that signed up to?
Yes,
say-
we did
okay.
have one online comment submitted
Okay.
for this item.
Because we went ahead and did that last time, I'd suggest we go ahead and do that again. So if you would please read that item. Thank you.
The online submittal was from Joel Atkinson. He is in opposition to the item. The statement is, "Hello, my name is Joel Atkinson, and I own the property at 511 South Aspen, Broken Arrow, Oklahoma. When I purchased the property from Costa Properties in 2011 and built a building for my medical practice, it was with the assumption that the surrounding property would remain as commercial property as it is now. There are 3 professional medical businesses and 2 banking institutions that currently occupy the frontage of the property that is being proposed to change to residential. I'm completely against changing this to a residential status for many reasons. This proposal is for rental property with duplexes and quadplex buildings. This in and of itself will just decrease the value of my property. Also, there's not even a through street to the proposed development, which means increased traffic through the business park lots, especially mine, not to mention increased theft, increased liability, and increased loitering in the business parking lots. I appreciate the opportunity to voice my concerns and hope the Planning Commission and City Council will not approve this proposal."
Thank you. Were there any other?
That was the only one.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and close the public hearing portion. Any further discussion, questions from commissioners?
No, well, before we make a motion, I just want to clarify, what was the reason for the continuing again?
Owner had something come up and he's out of state. He can't be here tonight, so.
Okay, that's 2 months in a row it's happened now, right?
No, it's, if I can speak, I'm the applicant. And he had a family emergency come up, and it was just last minute, so he really wants to be here. We'd love to talk to you all about the pocket community and things of that nature.
Okay, and you're Tim Terrell, right?
Yes, sir.
I don't know if you want to come to the front or not, just to
Sure.
address this,
Yes,
but
yeah.
I don't really have a problem continuing it because
Sure.
no matter what comes in, we're going to hear it anyway.
Absolutely.
But would it be best actually to table it until he's ready to come in and then make sure we get it on the agenda, or we're
Oh,
going
he'll
to, or
be
do we
here
need to
next time.
continue it month to month to month?
No. It would have been continued for 2 weeks, but we had the holidays. But you're right. This is would be the second continuance.
Right.
And I don't anticipate any other issues whatsoever.
Okay.
'Cause he's anxious to get this done. I was sick last time, so
Yeah,
I'm still getting over it. So it's one of those deals. It's just bad timing.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Okay.
I don't have
Thank
a
you.
problem.
And I can address the comment if you'd like me to do
Yeah,
that.
go ahead but please go ahead and state your
Tim
name.
Terrell,
again. Thank
Tulsa
you.
Engineering and Planning. We're located at 9810 East 42nd Street, Suite 100 in Tulsa. This property, this is Lot 3 and Reserve Area B of the Creek Ridge Park plat. It's never been anything, it's never been commercially zoned since 82 when this first came up. It's been zoned for, correct me if I'm wrong, Amanda and Mike, I believe it's multifamily, garden apartments, a lot of multifamily through the many PUDs and amendments they've had, and then assisted living, and now it's zoned ON for neighborhood office. So it's never been commercially zoned whatsoever. So it's always been high intensity, single family or multifamily residential. This is the least intense use that's been proposed for the property. So multifamily would have dumped a lot more traffic onto the site, and I don't think there's any problem with loitering. These are also on lots, individual lot ownership, no rentals. So
That's what I
that's
was
not the
gonna
goal
say.
of this.
I was going to ask you to clarify that if you could. So
Yeah,
perfect.
it's
yeah.
lotted. It's not one lot, one block's like a multifamily, individual lots for individual ownership for the units.
All righty.
No
Thank
rentals.
you.
Now, it
Yep.
doesn't mean someone couldn't rent, but
Sure.
you know how that is.
Right. Thank you.
Is that all you
Anything
need?
else? That's all I need. Any further questions?
Not for the applicant.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All righty. Go ahead.
Yes, Madam Chair. Since this gentleman spoke and we've already read, should we go over what was mentioned the last time? Or are we just going to wait and review this time and the previous meeting all during the next meeting?
No, it's all part of the record already. So
Okay.
you don't need to reconsider.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Any further discussion, comments?
I'll make a motion to table item 6B.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to table item 6B. Please call the roll.
Is that tabling it or continuing it to the next meeting?
I'm sorry. I
sorry.
make a motion to continue it to the next meeting,
Okay,
Thank
January
you.
26th.
January 26th for item 6B.
Yep.
Same second.
Okay, there you go.
Jason Cohen,
Yes.
Jonathan Townsend,
Yes.
Lee Welpley,
Yes.
Robert Goranson,
Yes.
Jaylee Klimpa.
Yes, so this item will be continued to our January 26th meeting. So if you would like to come and speak on this item, please come early, sign up, and you will be, you are welcome to come speak. Moving on to item 6C.
Yes, item 6C is PUD 453 and BAZ 452 for Ironwood. It's concurrent rezoning and PUD request for a single-family residential development located west of the southwest corner of Omaha and Elm Avenue. The property is presently zoned R1 single-family residential and unplatted, with the exception of approximately 5.99 acres of the west central portion, which is currently platted as Green Country Villa, and that's planned to be replatted into the Ironwood development if it's approved. The city of Broken Arrow has a 5 million gallon water storage tank on the east side of this property, and that is in a 200 by 235 easement that's been recorded. There are 2 existing duplexes on the Green Country Villa portion that are to remain and are requested to be rezoned to RD residential duplex, and the remaining 21.15 acres is requested to be rezoned to RS4 single family residential. The developer is wanting to construct a small lot, single-family detached residential development on the 21 point, slight discrepancy there, a little over 21 acres. City Council approved COMP Comp 157-2022, which is a request to change the comp plan designation on the northwest 4.57 acres of the site from level 4 to level 2. That was approved on October 18th, 2022, subject to the property being platted and a PUD being submitted that is similar to the draft PUD provided, which this one is. According to the PUD document submitted by the applicant, Ironwood will have a maximum of 84 dwelling units, including the 4 existing duplex dwelling units. The average lot size is proposed to be 46 to 50 foot by 120 feet, with a minimum lot size of 5,000 square feet with additional amenities, including 2 proposed park slash reserve areas. One is a pocket park with off-street parking, and the other is north of the water tower with a trail system. Additionally, a 10-foot landscape buffer is proposed along Omaha Street. The development's proposed to be served by private streets constructed to City of Broken Arrow standards, owned and maintained by the future HOA. This site was originally part of PUD 58 Green Country Villa, which was an 80-acre planned senior housing development that never materialized. PUD 58 and BAZ 1048, which was a concurrent request to change the zoning designation on the property to R3 and C2, were both approved in December 5th of 1985 by City Council. On September 6, 1989, the Green Country Villa plat was filed with Tulsa County validating PUD 58, and that is where those 2 existing duplexes are. Abandonment and abrogation of PUD 58 and then also BAZ 1406 were requests that happened at the same time. The BAZ 1406 request was requesting to maintain the R3 and C2 zoning that would have reverted back to R1 upon the abandonment slash abrogation of PUD 58. Those were both reviewed and approved by City Council on March 20th of 2000. PUD 58 has been abrogated, and which is evidenced by the existing R1 zoning on the property and the development of the surrounding reserve at Battle Creek subdivision, which is part of PUD 128, and that comprises the remainder of that 80 acres. BAZ 1406 was approved subject to the property being platted. Platting this property would satisfy that condition, so it's recommended that with the approval of PUD 453 2022 and BAZ 452 2022, BAZ 1406 be abrogated. According to FEMA's maps, none of the properties in the 100-year floodplain, and water and sanitary are available from the City of Broken Arrow. The PUD is to be developed in accordance with the use and development regulations on the larger tract of property with the RS4 district in the except as modified here, which is permitting all uses by right and specific use permit in the RS4 district, changing the minimum lot size from 6,500 square feet to 5,000 square feet, modifying minimum frontage from 55 feet to 46, that range of 46 to 50, and that 50 being at the build line for lots. Both of them are at the build line, and the 50 feet width is for lots abutting the reserve at Battle Creek lots. The minimum front setback is from 20 feet to 20 feet, excluding corner lots, and then 15 feet for corner lots. Unless there's a garage opening present, then it'll be 20 feet. The minimum rear setback is going from 20 feet or 35 feet adjacent to arterials to 20 feet, and then with Omaha being an arterial, 25 feet for lots abutting Omaha Street. For landscaping, the current requirement of the zoning ordinance is at least 1 tree per 50 lineal feet of frontage along an arterial, and it's going to 1 tree per 40 lineal feet, and all trees will be medium to large trees, and there will be that walking path constructed north of the water tower. For the RD portion, this is to accommodate the existing duplexes. The change is to allow all uses, including those that would be permitted by specific use permit, and then modify the frontage from 25 feet to 8 feet, and that is along North Ironwood Ave, and modify the rear setback from 20 feet to 17.5 feet. According to Section 6.4 of the zoning ordinance, PUD provisions are established for 1 or more of 5 purposes listed in the zoning ordinance. Staff's opinion, PUD 453 satisfies items 2 and 3 of that section with increased landscaping along the secondary arterial and the open space north of and across from the water tower. And those items are 2 is permit greater flexibility within the development to best utilize physical features of the particular site in exchange for greater public benefits than would otherwise be achieved through development under this ordinance. And 3 is to encourage the provision of and preservation of meaningful open space. Based upon the comprehensive plan, the location of the property, unique conditions associated with the property, and the surrounding land uses, staff is recommending that PUD 453 2022 and BAZ 452 2022 be approved subject to the property being platted. And with the approval of the PUD and rezoning request, should it be approved, BAZ 1406 will be abrogated. And the applicant is present and in agreement, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Micah. Commissioners have any questions for staff? Okay, go ahead.
Well, I have a question of staff, but it'd probably be directed to the applicant before it's over with anyway. But you said any questions, Micah? So
Sure.
the applicant is proposing private streets. I don't really have a problem with that, but it's not going to be a gated community. I was just wondering why they were wanting to go with the private streets and not be in a gated area. Does that make sense? Just curious. I don't have a problem with that. I was just curious why you're wanting to do that way.
Might be better answered by the applicant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll give him a chance here.
All right. Any further questions of staff? Okay. If the applicant would please come forward. Thank you. You know the drill.
Nathan Cross, 2 West 2nd Street, Suite 700, Tulsa. Good evening, Commissioners. This is it appears on paper to be a request to change from R1 to RS4, but it's really more in keeping with what the original plan was for this location. As Micah said, it was originally planned to be a larger senior housing community, I think with smaller lots, and some version of that is how the existing 2 duplexes wound up on site. For whatever reason, that never materialized, and this land's been vacant for a number of years. What my client proposes to do is to create a community that is similar to a maybe patio home community with a little bit smaller lots, less upkeep for the residents. The ingress and egress points, as you can see, one of those is the existing right there to the north, and then the lower one is obviously farther downstream, but they both go out onto North Elm Place. So the entire subdivision will be oriented inward from Omaha and Elm Place and the surrounding area. It includes normal amenities that you would see in a subdivision in Broken Arrow. It's got a walking trail and a park area. As we all know, there's the existing water tower. I believe the city already has an easement to access that, but whatever is necessary to maintain city access, my client obviously would honor. And I'll take any questions you might have. The private street question, I don't know that we're married to private streets, but that was the initial thought to make it more like a traditional subdivision.
And I don't really have a problem with private
Sure.
street. I was just curious as why you decided to go to private streets and not be in a gated. I was expecting if it's going to be private street to be gated.
Well,
because when it's private street, the city of Broken Arrow does not take over. the
I
maintenance.
understand. I think that my honest feeling is that the expectation on some level is that in what is now considered a traditional subdivision, they often have private streets. They're often gated, but they often have private streets, which allows the HOA to have some control over street maintenance and beautification. Whereas if it becomes a city street, then it just goes on to the long list of city projects that the city's got, the never-ending list, if you will. And so I think it's aimed at the idea of maintaining a certain look and feel for this community that's going to be, again, consistent, I think, with what you would think of as a patio home community.
And see, I understand that. And, they're going to be smaller lots. And I don't know if it's geared towards maybe, empty nesters, senior citizens or what, because they're going to be smaller lots. And you're talking about the upkeep. Well, then there's going to be a lot of maintenance on the upkeep of the road itself, since the city of Broken Arrow is not going to be putting any money into the
That's
upgrade
right.
of the street. So
Yeah.
I was just curious. I don't have a problem with that.
Sure.
But I was just curious what the reason was behind it. The other question I did have is, and I don't really have an issue with this, but I'm curious what the thought process was. The sidewalks, when I look at it, you can see the sidewalks located, which looks appropriate where they need to be. But in there, you have a note that you mentioned about, the engineering department will give us leeway on moving changing the widths and the alignment. And I have no problem with that. But are you talking mainly because like fire hydrants and things like that? Is that where that's coming from?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, sometimes you have to make allowances for things like fire hydrants, mailboxes, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It would certainly be up to city standard. Everything's going to be up to city standards.
Right.
And so I've not had that question before. So that's
Well, I don't usually see that statement in there, to be honest with you.
right.
But just because that's in there, that's fine. You do have, the applicant has that right, the developer has that right. but I'm just making sure we're not giving free rein where the sidewalks being serpentine everywhere, things like that.
No, and I don't know that I get your point. I don't know that there would be any compelling reason for a developer to do that.
Yeah,
As
I mean,
a-
because
as
what
a-
you have laid out looks
Yeah.
just fine.
I mean, to some degree, city obviously has vested interest in oversight of improvements in areas and making them adhere to a certain standard. But there's also a market factor there. If you got to go sell these to people and people have certain expectations of what they normally see with sidewalks and streets and whatnot in a subdivision. And so I don't know that there'd be a reason to not do it the way in a normal conventional way for a developer.
And going back to the streets, even though it's private streets, like I think you mentioned, it's
Mhm.
got to be built to the city code.
It absolutely
anyway,
has to be
so,
built to city standards. Yes.
Yeah. I'm good with that.
Is Commissioner Gorson right or in his assumption that maybe the population that these homes are being built for could be more, as he said, empty nesters, or is there a particular population that really
Well,
likes this style of home?
I think that that's probably the market. I don't know that you could get any developer or business owner to get up here and say, we're only selling to this group. But that's the idea is people, I would say that as a broad concept, people that want a little bit nicer finish on homes, but don't want the upkeep of a yard, but like the idea of living in a communal area. They're all separately lots. I mean, they're going to be sold individually. But it's the person who would normally be drawn to that. I don't know that in today's world it's necessarily exclusively empty nesters. I know that there's a segment of the community, because I do this a lot,
Mm-hmm.
that is drawn towards the concept of less maintenance, and they're a younger crowd than what you traditionally, I don't know that there's as many. I don't know that it's the same as it was maybe 20, 25 years ago, where people thought, well, whatever the largest house I can get for the money is what I would like, or many people thought that. I don't know that that's necessarily the case anymore, but I would say in Tulsa, Oklahoma, the market that you're thinking of is probably the market.
It's good. Thank you.
See, and going back to private streets, and I said I don't have a problem with it, and I don't. It's just that some of this stuff is enlightening to me, I guess. But the private streets, if I'm moving in there, is that a reason to keep me from wanting to move in there? Because knowing it's a private street, that I got to kick in money later to actually help.
I don't think so. I don't think so, more so than any other neighborhood in this vicinity that's gated. I mean,
No, I'm not saying gated. I'm talking about
I understand
private
that,
streets.
but those are all private streets where those neighborhoods are gated, and I don't know that any of those neighborhoods.
But they're gated. They're not gonna have stragglers driving through there like you would here.
I agree. I don't. But no, the answer to your question is no. I don't think of it as a reason for someone not to move in the neighborhood. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I was just curious.
No.
I'm good with it, though.
Sure. Any other questions?
I have a question regarding the existing duplexes that are there. So they're not owned by the applicant, or are they owned?
I think they are actually owned by the applicant. I think that's the entire parcel is owned by the applicant. Mr. Terrell's a planner. That's why I'm looking at him.
Okay, so I guess my question is, you're going to develop this whole area, but then you're still going to have these two duplexes. Why?
Because they're there. I mean, it's there. I don't know that whether there's a plan to renovate them. There are currently tenants in place. I can't speak necessarily to the reason behind it. I just know that the plan has always been to maintain them. And I think whomever is currently in there. Let me say it this way. It's certainly much less complicated from a design standpoint to not have to deal with that. There's a reason that my client wants to do it. I don't know that I know for sure, other than it just is easier to leave them there.
So as the HOAs develop for this area, they will then be required to contribute to the HOA, which currently is the owner.
Yeah. So whoever owns those, they could pass it through to the tenant, but whoever owns that property, yes, will be required to contribute to the HOA.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions of the applicant? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioners.
I don't believe we had anybody sign up. Did anybody call in or?
Nope, we had no online forums and no one signed up in person.
Okay, so we will not be opening up the public hearing portion of this since no one signed up and no one sent anything in online. So any further discussion, motions?
I move to approve item 6C 23-80.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for staff recommendation. Please call the roll.
Jason Cohen,
Yes.
Jonathan Townsend,
Yes.
Lee Welkley,
Yes.
Robert Goranson,
Yes.
Jaylee Klimpa.
Yes, and this item will go before City Council on February 7th of 2023. If you would like to speak there in opposition or for, sign up 5 minutes before the meeting and you will have that opportunity.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. Item 7 is appeals. We have none. Item 8 is general commission business. Commissioners, you got anything? Staff? Okay. Item 9, remarks, inquiries, and comments by planning commission and staff. Anybody other than Happy New Year?
I have a quick one.
ahead.
Just wanted to update you that at the last city council meeting, city council or city manager directed staff. So I know Graham has been working on it and working with our team on developing a moratorium that would be proposed as a resolution at the next city council meeting on specific use permits for short-term rentals. So just wanted to make you aware of that. It's currently drafted as only applying to basically specific use permits for short-term rentals. So that will be on the agenda.
Brand new applications.
Yes, brand new.
People will still be able to renew,
Right.
they'll still be able to get building permits to repair, whatever, but
See, I was going to ask about that. I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to bring that up, but I watched the council meeting on that. They're actually looking at doing it, or are they actually looking at, hey, let's evaluate this. Do we need to do this?
it's going to be on the agenda. So, and as of right now, we have it as 120 days.
120.
Yeah. So
So at their meeting, if they approve, would they approve it, or would they have to go out to public to get for public hearing to have it again?
no, it's a resolution, not an ordinance.
So it could be done right then.
Yes, correct.
So then all the new applications after that point would go into the moratorium?
Correct.
Okay,
And they can lift it at any time.
right,
They could, at the next regularly scheduled meeting, say, okay, we're good.
because it's just a resolution.
Correct.
And from the committee's perspective for the subcommittee that we have, we're very close on the ordinance draft and anticipate it being on a February agenda for public hearing. But we will put out a public notice in the newspaper once that date is finalized.
Seeing at the council meeting, I don't think they were aware of the status of the committee, because I know that was it Councilman Udi mentioned that, I think. And so I don't think there was a discussion on what the status was of the committee. I guess when you go talk about the moratorium, you can tell them about that, or?
Well, the less they know in advance, the better. So that way they can make a good, solid decision on the actual ordinance once it's presented properly in an open meeting. So
I just didn't want them to think that we were just sitting around not doing anything.
I don't think they think that at all.
Okay, good, good.
I think they know that a finished product is coming pretty soon.
Just don't want to
What I've
deduct our
heard.
pay or anything. Oh, wait.
Yeah, exactly.
If the population of BA ever breaches 200,000 people, you'll get paid. I think it's 50 a month, 25 a month, something like that.
Really?
That's going to
For
be long.
state law?
We're a way off from 200,000 people though.
Been in there a long time, I remember that.
Yeah.
So don't spend that
30
money
years,
yet.
you know.
Yeah, don't spend that money yet. If I had a Porsche,
I-
I'd let that dream go.
Well, thanks for all of that information. Anything further?
Well, I do have something that and I don't know how to bring this up, but maybe, I just need to talk about it, I guess. We see a lot of items come through, like Timber Ridge had the long runways going out there off, let's see, Albany Street, I believe it was. And of course, that would come back for us. And then there was Buff Creek. So how much are we pushing for traffic calming policies? I know the city has their own traffic calming policy, but there's things that we could do during the site development, stuff like that, like the traffic circles, things like, not traffic circle. I don't know if I want to call it that or not, but it's a traffic calming measure, 10-foot radius type island out in the street, intersections, things like. how much do we actually push that? It just seemed like I don't see that very often, like,
And we would start that conversation as early as possible. So as soon as we see a sketch plat at very early stages or even a preliminary plat, we would identify that, this street is over 900 feet and
Right.
it's based on our criteria. And at that point, we would advise them that, look into options for traffic calming. We've seen these several options used in the community. And so if that, if we give advice to do that and it's not provided, say at the preliminary plat stage, then we would make that a comment in our checklist that traffic calming needs to be in place because the street doesn't meet the standards of the subdivision regulations if it's over 900 feet and a straight street. So we have those conversations as early as possible and then incorporate those into comments for planning commission that need to be rectified before the final plat's filed.
and see, Jill, when you mentioned the 900 feet,
Mhm.
there's just somewhere in there, I don't know if it's under the engineering design regs or the subdivision regs. I don't remember where I saw it, but there's like a discrepancy between the major and the minor and the collector streets and that 900 feet. That 900 feet references what, the minor, I think, or the
Residential streets, so
right,
collectors
the
can.
minor and the residential.
Yes, so
itself.
if it reaches a collector status, then it can be straight for over 900 feet because with
But the minor has
collectors,
to go into a major before it can go into a collector though, right?
typically, and it depends on the subdivision design, but so collectors, which are allowed to be straighter for a longer distance, have limitations on the houses that can actually, where vehicles can actually back out onto the street. There's a statement in the subdivision regulations that would prevent the design to be where homes would back out straight into the collector. And so if you do have a straight street, that eliminates some of those potential issues where accidents can happen from people backing out and you have a lot of turning movements in and out on a straight, long street. So the collector is really where it jumps to a different standard.
Yeah, because a collector can run, I think, a mile long, actually, up to a mile long, but not a minor or major.
Right.
And then they got the width difference. Anyway.
Yes. Yep, that's right.
Anything else? No? Okay. Item 10,
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
we have a motion and a second to adjourn. Please call the roll.
Sorry, y'all were fast.
Mm,
Jason Cohen,
Yes.
Jonathan Townsend,
Yes.
Lee Welty,
Yes.
Robert Goranson,
Yes.
Jaylee Klippa.
Yes. Thank you, everybody. Staff and
Thank you.
commissioners. It was good seeing everybody again.
All right.
Yes.
I haven't seen Jonathan in over a month.
Hi.
Yes,
Who?
Mr. Parker.
Yeah,
This guy here?
the guy sitting next to you.
So you're Jonathan.
That's, I had to be here 5 minutes.